Hello and bonjour, teachers and students. Welcome to our third Follow the Farmers live stream event. We are so happy to have you here today. We are taking you to Dusty Ridge Ranch, a family-run sheep farm owned by Harold and Sherry Bosma. We'll also be joined by Anna Hunter, owner of Longway Homestead, a fiber farm and wool mill located in eastern Manitoba. For those teachers and students who are joining us for the first time, my name is Larissa Peich, and I work with agriculture in the classroom Manitoba, and I'm so excited to be hosting today's event with you. Teachers and students, please feel free to say hi in the chat and tell us where you are joining from. We would love to hear. The Follow the Farmers program was developed to help connect students with Manitoba farms and farmers to help them gain an understanding of where their food comes from. Students, this is an amazing opportunity for you to learn about the hard work farmers do every day to grow the food that you eat. These farm tour videos would not be made possible without our video sponsor, Penner Farm Services. So a big thank you to them once again for partnering with us to help educate more students across Manitoba about agriculture. And of course, to our farmers, thank you for welcoming us all to your farm and for sharing your amazing passion for what you do. Today, we are streaming on both our Agriculture in the Classroom YouTube channel and Facebook page. As a reminder, teachers, if you're wanting to post any questions in the comment section, be sure to log into your YouTube account to do so. And we'll be taking some of those later on in the event. After the farm tour, we will have a live question and answer period with Harold, Sherry, and Anna, and they will try to answer as many questions as they can for you. So keep them coming. Now I would like to introduce our sheep farmers. Harold Bosma was born and raised on his family farm in Ontario. After graduating from Agriculture College, he moved to Alberta, where he worked in various livestock-related jobs, as well as over 30 years in animal nutrition. He moved to Manitoba in 1997. Sherry Bosma, his wife, was born and raised in northwestern Ontario. In her 20s, Sherry was able to fulfill a lifelong dream of moving to the country, which allowed her to have another one of her loves in her life, her own horses. Sherry considers herself very blessed to now work on their still growing sheep farm, Dusty Ridge Ranch, full-time. Currently, Harold and Sherry and 5 of their youngest 9 children, that's amazing, now ages 10 to 17, manage a flock of 250 Tunis and Canadian Arcot ewes near Grunthal, Manitoba. We also have joining us today Anna Hunter, who is a first-generation sheep farmer and wool mill owner in eastern Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory. Anna, her husband Luke, and their 2 sons moved to Manitoba from Vancouver, BC in 2015. Then she started a small sheep farm, raising Shetland sheep for their beautiful wool. Then in 2018, they started a small-scale wool processing mill, the only one of its kind in Manitoba. They process wool and fiber for themselves and for other farmers, and are so passionate about making connections with customers like us, as well as other crafters and artists in Manitoba. Welcome, you 3. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here. Kids, just a reminder to keep those questions coming in the comment field. Feel free to add them as we go throughout the tour. And without further ado, we're going to join Harold and Sherry on their farm, Dusty Ridge Ranch, and learn about wool from Anna. Off we go.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dusty Ridge Ranch, just south of Winnipeg. We're a sheep farm. My name is Harold Bosma, and this is my wife, Sherry. Ours is a family farm here, and we manage about 250 ewes. Ewes are mother sheep that we lamb several times a year. And we welcome you here. We'd like to take you on a tour and show you exactly what we do here. This first group of sheep that we're going to look at are mamas with their 2-week-old babies. They have lots of fun. We also have dogs. There's a certain risk from predators, so we take steps to prevent our sheep from being eaten by coyotes and wolves. Big dogs help defend against predators. We send this llama out with the sheep. The llama can see lots, and the llama will herd and guard the sheep to keep them safe. In this area, we're showing you how we keep our sheep warm and dry. Sheep don't worry too much about being warm because they have their own wool coats. This building is a large roofed building. It's the same temperature as outside, but it's never rainy and it's never snowy and it's never too hot in this room. And the sheep are comfortable with this environment. In order to help keep them comfortable, we use straw for bedding so they can lay on it to keep them nice and warm and dry. You'll see in the middle of the pen, there are drinkers, the blue ones, and at the far end is the yellow one. That's fresh water that's flowing all the time for the sheep to drink. Sheep will drink between 8 and 10 liters of water a day, which is like 2 big milk jugs and another half of one. Ewe lambs can have their first babies when they're about 12 to 13 months of age. And then they can have lambs about every 8 or 9 months after that as they get older. This is what we call barn 1. This is the area that we use for several different purposes. Maybe the most important one is likely lambing, because this room we can keep at a similar temperature most of the year. We can keep this room from not getting too hot in the summer because of those very large fans you see at the back end that create a nice cool wind tunnel in here. As well as you'll see there's a little black fan on the wall that we use when it's very cold. The animals, especially these wool sheep, produce a lot of heat, but they also produce a lot of humidity from their breath. So the heat exchanger and the fans are used so that we can circulate the warm, moist air out and bring in cool, fresh air. 0 or +3 or 4 is a fine place to have lambs born. It's a perfectly comfortable environment for them. And they'll be in here in little individual pens with their mums for a day or maybe 2, and then their wool grows very quickly. And then those lambs are able to go out into the big barn where we saw the lambs a few minutes ago. Mature ewes typically have 2 lambs. 3 is not uncommon. We have had 4. And younger ewes, ewe lambs, would more likely have singles or twins. In this picture, you're going to see 4 bottle babies. These are ones that were born triplets. And because the mums have only 2 teats or drinking nipples, then we always take one and raise it in this bottle pen here with this tail. The bottle babies typically will drink milk for about 30 days, a month and a half, and then they'll go back with their mums and their brothers and sisters for the second month of their life. Lambs are with their mums for about 60 days, 2 months, and then they're weaned. And then lambs will be grown on our grower rations until about 100 days, which is the age at which they would be sold and go on farther into the meat market.
With our lambs, as soon as they're born, we give them tags. If I have a lamb that potentially isn't feeling very good, I can quickly scan the lamb, and then I'm able to go and check her mama to make sure that she has enough milk in her udder. So the tag tells me exactly where she belongs, so I can keep track of that.
This is our multi-purpose room. This is a room that we can keep at a comfortable working temperature all year round for people. And this is where we do all our management jobs. This is a place where we can bring our sheep in. This is what's called the tub. So the sheep would all come in this way, and then they can rotate around and they go down through our handling system for any jobs that we need to do. If we have to put in new ear tags for identity purposes, or this is where we bring the sheep if we have to shear them, or give them pedicures, trim their feet, all the different things, vaccination that we have to do to keep them healthy. All those jobs can be done in this room. Our sheep here eat a fairly specific diet. The mums with their babies have the highest nutrient requirement because they have to look after themselves and feed their babies, and they produce a lot of milk to help their babies to grow. What I've put out today is the amount that a typical mother sheep or ewe would eat each day. So she would have this amount of straw, this hard, heavy, fibrous type product, as well as this hay. These are important ingredients to help fill the sheep, as well as to make the rumen. The rumen is the first stomach, and it is the big vat that chews up and regurgitates and comes back up and chews their cud. And this is what makes the whole stomach turn and keep everything working. The other primary ingredient we're using here is a fiber pellet. Again, we go back to recycling and reusing. This is a pellet, it's a byproduct of the malting industry. So this is a product that is not useful to people, but is a very high protein, high fiber pellet. Along with that, each of these ewes would eat 35 grams of this vitamin and mineral premix. This is your 1-a-day multivitamin. That's about how much that would be. As well, they need calcium to keep bones strong and healthy and for producing milk. This is enough feed right here for one mother ewe to look after feeding her twins. These are the baby food pellets that the little lambs are eating. This is a special vitamin, mineral, protein, energy, and grain compound that is everything a baby needs to go along with his mother's milk to make the baby grow quickly and healthy. All energy comes from the sun. The sun provides energy for the grass to grow. The grass grows, the sheep graze the grass, and it provides energy and nutrition for the sheep. The sheep grow and they get big and they produce meat and milk, which is nutrition for people. The manure from the sheep comes back to refertilize the grass again. It's the carbon cycle, it's the energy cycle, but it all comes from the sun. We use our meat from sheep in terms of lamb chops and ribs and sausage as a source of protein for people for building and improving tissue, building strong muscles and bones in our human nutrition. Lamb meat is a great source of B vitamins for blood, heart, and brain health, zinc for rebuilding body tissue, and iron for healthy blood.
My name is Anna Hunter. I am a sheep farmer and I also own Longway Homestead Wool. So we process wool from raw all the way to finished goods. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens once sheep have been sheared and what happens with the wool after. So sheep are generally sheared once or twice a year. So as you can see, we've got the fleece of one sheep, and we call it a fleece after it's been shorn. And the first thing we do is we assess the quality. So we're gonna take out some of the really dirty parts, the parts that are filled with hay or straw or manure, because when we're working with wool, we really wanna capture the best quality wool that we can. The next step is scouring. So scouring is the process of washing the fleece. And you can't feel it, but wool is filled with a greasy substance called lanolin. Lanolin is incredible. It protects the sheep's skin. It's almost waterproofing for the sheep. Lanolin is also super useful in various products like moisture, creams. The next step is called carding, and we're essentially combing all the fiber so that all the fibers are in one direction. This is wool after it's been carded, so it's nice and clean. Compare it to what it looks like when it's dirty. You can tell how clean it is. The next step to processing it so that we can actually use it for our textiles and our clothing is to add some twist. So we just simply add twist with our machinery, or we can do it by hand, and it makes it a strong fabric. The next final step is called spinning. So this is spun yarn, and this is what we create from the raw wool. And then this can be used to either knit or weave into clothing. So to give you an example, this fleece right here is probably about 15 pounds of wool. And out of that, we could get maybe 5 full-sized sweaters, or we could probably get about 35 toques. So one of the really incredible things about wool, and this makes me really hopeful for the future of our climate, is that wool is 50% carbon. So what this means is we can capture carbon from our atmosphere into the grass that the sheep consume and turn that into energy which they use to grow wool. So we can actually help reverse the effects of climate change when we wear wool.
Oh, wasn't that awesome? Thank you so much, Harold and Sherry, for bringing us to your farm. Thank you, Anna, for taking the time to teach us about wool. I just love that video. Thank you very much for having us out with you. All right, so we are going to dive into some of our questions that came in through our pre-survey that teachers sent. And the first one I'm going to pull in is from Boissevain School, from Miss Bayhen's class. And they are wondering, if a sheep gets sick, does it produce less wool or milk And I'm going to throw this over to you, Harold. Do you mind starting off answering this one for us?
Yes, that's true. If a sheep does get sick, it will not eat properly and it will produce less milk. So that's why it's important to keep them very healthy. And there would be less wool, but possibly more importantly, the quality wool would be different, which is what Anna should tell us about, please.
Yeah, thanks. So when a sheep gets sick, or if they have an experience that's really hard on them, their wool actually gets a little break in it. And then when we go and try and process it, the wool is weak. So we like to try and make sure that they're as healthy as they can be. And we try and avoid any, like we will shear them before they have babies so that that break is right at the very end.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Very, very cool. Thank you, guys. All right, second question here is from Emma, Miss Emma's class at Robin Elementary. And they're wondering, how long does it take to shear a sheep and how often is it done? Do you want to start off with this one, Anna?
Yeah, I'd love to. So we like to shear the sheep at least once a year. That is the ideal. They need it definitely once a year, and most breeds in Canada only need it once a year. It will take a shearer between 2 and 3 minutes to shear the entire sheep. And actually the fastest record for ever 9 seconds by a shearer in Ireland. So they do it pretty quickly, and they do a really good job.
Wow, amazing. You kind of cut out there a little bit, Anna. As you know, guys, it's nice and snowy today, and Anna lives out of Winnipeg, so we might have a little bit of jumps in our internet here. But how long did you say it took for the world record there for shearing, Anna?
9 seconds is the current world record for fastest sheep being sheared. And I'm sorry about the internet.
That's okay. It's not your fault. It's good old Manitoba winters, right? We'll blame it on that. Thank you. That's insanely fast. Wow. Crazy. All right. So we have another question here. This is actually from a homeschool teacher, from Kim Andrews. And she is wondering, where does wool go to get cleaned and made into things after the sheep are sheared? And I know you, Harold and Sherry, you send some of your fleece over to Anna, correct?
That's correct. She takes some of our fleece every time we shear.
Very, 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 very neat. Do you also send fleece to other people in Manitoba, or is Anna your main?
She's our main local customer, but we do send some as well to Canadian Wool Growers, which is a cooperative that will send it on for processing elsewhere.
Okay. And Anna, part of the question was, where does it go to get cleaned and made into things? So I was wondering, can you share a little bit about that process? Once you receive the wool, what happens next?
So the process of what happens to clean wool and process it is the same no matter where it gets sent, whether it's to a small little mill like ours, or whether it's to a massive mill in Alberta or anywhere else in the world. So the first step is washing. We wash wool at a super hot temperature so that we can get rid of all the greasy lanolin that's in the wool. And that lanolin keeps those sheep waterproof in the rain, and it keeps their skin all moist. But we need to remove it before we want to process it. So we wash it with super hot water and a little bit of soap, and then we dry it. And then it goes through the processing stages.
Okay.
And in our mill, I'll show you just a little picture. We wash our wool in those big, huge sinks. We boil water and wash it in there. And then we dry it on these big, huge racks. And that setup is going to be the same, just on a bigger scale, no matter where you go.
Okay. Thanks, Anna. So the next question is from Miss Dilworth's class from Glenwood School. And I'm going to throw this your way, Harold and Sherry. The students are wondering, how many hours does a sheep farmer work in a week? And I'll let you answer that one first. And then they have another kind of like sub question that we'll dive into after. So I'll let you answer that one first.
Thank you. That's a really good question. It depends a little bit on the time of year. In the summertime, it's not as busy because the sheep look after themselves more when they're out on pasture. But in the wintertime, when we have to keep them inside, we do keep them inside and we feed them and make sure they have good bedding. It takes us about 3 hours a day for 3 or 4 of us. The children help a lot to do the regular things that we need to look after. And then when there's some very busy times of the year, like at shearing time, then there's always more folks involved. That takes all day at our place. Or lambing time, which takes usually 3 to 4 weeks, and that's a lot more hours. Sherry can better respond to that question, I think, about how long she spends in the barn at lambing time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that is a good question. And it is variable depending on the size of group that is lambing. But there are often times that I'm in the barn most of the day and periodically through the night too. And truth be told, I may have fallen asleep in the barn once or twice.
Sherry, I'm curious, what is the most, or maybe, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but what is the highest number of lambs that you've had be born in one day? I'm just curious.
Oh, I've had 25 ewes lamb in one day.
Wow.
That's a busy day when you take into consideration twins and triplets, and getting everybody sorted into their individual pens. I find that busy. And we're actually moving into a very busy lambing season for us at the beginning of March. We'll have about 160 ewes that have been ultrasounded and confirmed pregnant that will be lambing starting in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's going to be all hands on deck then.
Well, it's a good thing that we snagged you early. You might not be available in 3 weeks to do this with us. Sounds like it's going to be a busy time. Wow, good for you guys.
It'll be all action shots in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, I bet. Super cool. And I'm going to throw you the second portion of the question. A student is wondering, how much would it cost to take care of one sheep? Oh, looks like we have Anna paused here a little bit. That's okay. Maybe we'll move on to the next question then. We'll pull this one back in if we get her back on. This question comes from Miss Julie's class at Tanner's Crossing School. And I'll throw this your way again, Harold and Sherry. Do all sheep farmers have herding dogs?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. And I'm just so thankful for all the questions and that you're visiting us today. And if I could, I want to throw a little shout out to our grandson, Lucas, and his grade 3 class, who is watching us today also, along with everybody else. We have only very recently gotten into herding dogs. Our flock has grown to a size where I needed a engaged partner to help me move sheep around. And if I could tell you a little story, we were here about a year and a half ago, and we were shearing sheep. And that day we were shearing probably about 150 sheep. So we were shuffling sheep in to be sheared and moving them out. And our shearer was helping with getting one particular stubborn group in. Fun fact, if one sheep decides not to do something, 50 more will decide at the same time not to do the exact same thing. So I was a little frustrated, and our shearer was kind of giggling. And I asked her, because she has sheep too, and I said, oh, this is so aggravating. Like, how do you do this? And she says, I don't do it. And I was like, what do you mean? She says, I have border collies. They do all this work. And I was amazed by that.
Yeah.
And I said to her that day, you know, I am such a novice, but if you ever get the perfect fit for a totally green shepherd that could use a partner to help move her sheep, you give me a call and let me know. And about a year, it was probably a year and a half later, I got that call. And she said, were you serious when you mentioned you would be interested in a border collie? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I think part of what was really successful in that for us was that I was not so smart and my sheep were not so smart, but Try, our border collie, when she came, was very, very smart. And I made a lot of effort to learn, and it's stress-free movement of the sheep. You don't have to have kids corralling sheep. Mm-hmm. It's also become a safety measure for us, because I can quite easily, within minutes, move a group of sheep off pasture with Try into a barn. Harold can go out with the tractors. We can roll out bales with not sheep being underneath the tractor or the bale, and then we can let the sheep out. So I think having a knowledgeable handler, which our shearer definitely was, navigate that transition into dogs for us was really, really helpful. And there have also been a couple other handlers that have taught me a bunch. If anybody wants to move sheep or cattle, give me a call. I'll let you know. And I'm just, honestly, when I go and do my management jobs with my dog, it's like the angels are singing, because it's so helpful to have her.
It's amazing the capabilities that dogs have to help us in those types of ways, eh? Super cool. Thanks for sharing that, Sherry. And it looks like we have Anna back. Hi, Anna. Back in action. Hi. I want to throw the latter part of a question that we had earlier when we lost you for a couple of minutes there. Some students are wondering, how much would it cost to take care of one sheep? Do you mind taking that one on?
Sure. So it really depends on the farm, but in general, a sheep is going to eat about 100 pounds of hay a year. So in the summer, they eat the grass that grows outside, but in the winter, we have lots of snow and no grass, so we have to either make hay or we have to buy hay, and that costs about $100 a year for one sheep. And then there's the healthcare costs. We need to sometimes give them vaccinations, or we have to check their poop for worms. And if they have worms, then we have to treat those worms, and we have to trim their hooves. And sometimes we have the vet come out and visit. So that's about another $50 a year per sheep. And then we're also looking at the cost of shearing. So if we don't do it ourselves, if we pay a shearer, which we usually do because they're very fast, it costs about $5 a sheep to shear. So we're looking at a total of $155 a year to keep one sheep healthy and fed.
Very cool. Well, you might have some future sheep farmers based on that. Might be taking on some new projects. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. So we have one last question. This is actually a video question that was sent in, and we're going to throw this one your way, Anna. Let's pull this one in.
Hi, Auntie Anna. We have a question for you. What's one of the funniest sheep's names? And which one's your favorite name?
I only got a little bit of that. Thanks for the question, Lane and Kate. Two of my favorite little shepherdesses in training. But I think they asked what is the best names of my sheep? Can you repeat it?
What are some of the funniest names? Best name, I think they asked.
Okay. Well, on our farm, we do a little project called Sponsor Sheep, where we let people actually name our sheep for us. We just couldn't come up with enough names. So people get to send in their ideas for naming our sheep. So this year we had Artemis and Apollo, which was a really fun team. We had Alexander Lamilton. We had Yo-Yo Ba. And then we've had we have Ashoka, which if any of you like Star Wars, she is a great Jedi. Let me see. I'm trying to think. We have we have lots of sheep named after good food and treats, like Marshmallow and Fudgio. So those are just a few of the fun names that have come in.
Aw, super cool. Thanks, Anna. And thanks for sending in that video, girls. Super fun. So that closes the part of our pre-questions. Now, I'm sure that there's a ton flooding in through the live comment section. So Anna, Harold, Sherry, you guys ready to dive into some live questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, the first one we have here is from Lynn McCry's class, and they're wondering, how many baby sheep do you have on your farm right now? Harold and Sherry, I'll let you guys take that one first.
I can answer that question. That's a good question. So behind us is a group of about 15 ewes that lambed in end of December, beginning of January. Okay. And they have 31 lambs with them behind us. So that is all the lambs that we have here until the beginning of March.
Crazy. And how about you, Anna? Do you have any lambs over on your farm right now too?
We don't have any lambs right now. We usually wait until the springtime for all our lambs. So usually around mid-May is when the lambs start being born here.
Okay, very neat. Thank you, 3. All right, let's go for another question here. All right. Tara Friesen is wondering, how long is a sheep pregnant for? And maybe we'll let the Bosmas take this one.
Sure, that can vary a day or two depending on the breed of sheep. But typically, they're pregnant for about 5 months and 5 days.
Okay. Interesting. So about half the time as us lady folk in the human world. Okay, very, very cool. All right, let's take another one here. All right, Allison is wondering, how do sheep react with other animals? We know that you have dogs on your farm as well, but have you noticed any different types of reactions from the sheep around the llama or around any other animals that you might have on the farm?
Sheep are often a little bit surprised when they see different animals, but they get used to them really quickly because we have cows and calves and cattle as well, and they don't bother too much about them. They look at them and then they'll just associate with them. The llama is kind of in charge, and the sheep really quickly figure that out. So they do what the llama suggests or recommends. They usually follow the llama if she's leading, or she'll go if she gets behind and pushes them, then they'll follow along and go as they belong. The guardian dogs, they don't pay much attention to. Sherry and I will step to the side a little bit here in the camera so you can see that one of our guardians is lying right behind us. That's Waylon. And the sheep really don't have any worries about him at all. He comes and goes through the sheep pens. They don't pay him any attention at all. The herding dogs, on the other hand, they pay careful attention to, because the herding dogs usually mean there's somewhere we need to go. And so then they pay very careful attention to the herding dogs, to the coolies.
That's so neat. One thing I want to ask you too, this is just a curiosity question. What is the name of your llama?
Our llama is named Zora, and she is definitely the queen of the entire farm.
She looked like she was pretty in charge in the farm tour video, that's for sure. She means business. Awesome. Thanks, Harold and Sherry. Okay, let's pull in another question from the live feed here. I'm going to throw this one your way first, Anna. This is from Sandra Smith's class, and they're wondering, what is your favorite part of being a sheep farmer? Ask Katie and Izzy. Addie and Izzy, I should say.
My favorite part of being a sheep farmer is for sure the lambs. They are really cute and precious and little, and we don't mind spending all day and night out in the barn during lambing because we get all those lamb snuggles. And they're really precious, and I would say the lambs and also just the connection with the sheep is the best part about being a sheep farmer.
Very cool. How about you, Harold and Sherry? What's your favorite part about being sheep farmers?
Oh, it's a good question. I have to agree with Anna. I think that for myself anyways, lambing is my most favorite time. A lot of careful detail and work goes into, preparing the ewes for a pregnancy, for exposing the ewes to the ram, to feeding them appropriately for 5 months, to getting them set up for nothing but success with lambing. And then at lambing time, for me, it's like unwrapping Christmas presents.
Aww.
Yeah. Because you never know what you're going to get. You never know how many lambs you're going to get, how big they're going to be, what color they're going to be. Yeah, it's very exciting.
I love hearing all three of your answers because you can just tell when you answer that question how passionate you are about what you do. It's pretty amazing.
I'm curious, what is your favorite part about?
My favorite part about sheep farming is what the sheep eat. I really like the way the sheep eat so many different things that are not useful to others, so it doesn't go to waste. There's many, many things that our sheep eat that would only go to waste if we didn't feed it to sheep. And they're such great recyclers that they take things that we can't use ourselves and they make them into things that we can use ourselves. And because I have tried many different things to feed our sheep along the way, I've learned that they are the very best recyclers that I have ever met. And that's why I like being a sheep farmer.
Very cool. Thank you, everyone. I love it. Let's pull in another one from the chat here. Shelley Elliott's class. Does it hurt the sheep to have the ear tags in their ears? I'll throw this to you two, Harold and Sherry.
Okay, so at lambing time, like we mentioned before, we put the ewe and her babies into an individual pen. They're in there for about 24 to 48 hours. I put them in there so that I can make sure that they mother up well, that the lambs are doing good, that the mom bounces back from her lambing. And I always weigh them and tag them before they come out of that pen.
Okay.
It's really important for traceability, so I know what lamb belongs to what mom. And I think that my experience with tagging is it would probably hurt a little bit, like somebody getting their ears pierced, but then it would be over it. It wouldn't hurt anymore.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's an important part of taking care of your animals on your farm, right? Keeping track of their health, keeping track of who their mom is. It's all necessary things to make sure that they're healthy and comfortable on the farm. And a lot of us have ear piercings. It's not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you, guys. All right, let's pull in another one here. We're going to keep them coming. All right, this is all the way from Gladstone, grade 4 class. Wendy's class is wondering, if the lamb is sick, can you give it medicine or does it die? Really throwing it at you there. Do you guys want to take that one, Harold?
Sure. So I watch very, very carefully for signs of illness in lambs. We have a very close relationship with our veterinarian. Actually, we have 2 veterinarians that we work with regularly. There are certain things that now, with doing it for some time, I recognize the issue, and I have treatment protocols that I have been advised from my veterinarian work for certain illnesses, and I'm able to take care of that and administer medication. If I'm not sure, it's really it's really crucial to have that vet producer relationship, so that I can just text him and I can say, look, this is what's happening. This is the symptoms I'm seeing in the lamb. What is your recommendation? And usually within moments, I get a text back. And walking hand in hand with him, we're very fortunate to be able to help lambs as soon as they exhibit signs of illness. And usually that makes for a successful outcome.
And the best medicine for a lamb is that his mother eats very well, and that the first milk is very healthy and nutritious. And then we don't have very many sick lambs. It doesn't happen very often, because usually these moms and their lambs begin healthy, and they're strong creatures. They can stay healthy if we make sure for them, knowing that we can ask for help if we need to, but we don't very often have sick lambs.
Oh, that's great. Well, it means that you're doing your job well, right? That's awesome. All right, let's see what we have next here. This is coming from a student named Brooke, wondering what happens if the mother runs out of milk. Does that ever happen where you have milk supply issues in a ewe?
I can't say. That's a good question. I can't say that I have seen that myself, but hypothetically speaking, if that were to happen, then it would be my job as the shepherd to help that lamb and help that mama. So I would try to identify the reason why the mama ran out of milk. There has to be a reason for that, and help the mama with that. At the same time, supporting the lamb's nutrition until the mom perks up to be able to feed the lamb herself. Okay. So that would mean I would start bottle feeding that lamb and take care of it until the mama was ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll jump in there too.
Yeah, go for it, Anna.
Sometimes if we have a lamb that can't get milk from its mom, we can give it a bottle with formula, just like people, babies drink formula sometimes too, or their mom's milk. And one story that I want to share, which I think is so sweet, is 1 year with lambing. We had a mom that had only 1 lamb, but she has 2 teats. So she had an extra one that she could feed another lamb. And then we had a lamb who wouldn't drink from its mom. There were triplets, so there were too many of them. And we got that lamb onto the other mom, and she took care of that lamb and she fed that lamb, and it became like her baby. So I think just like Sherry said, when you're a farmer and you're paying attention to what's going on with your sheep, you can act really quickly and solve those sorts of problems so that your lambs get what they need.
Mm-hmm. And it seems the three of you do a very good job of that. Very, very cool. All right, let's see what's next here. What's coming your way? Okay, interesting. This gentleman here is wondering, can humans drink sheep milk? Do you want to take this one, Anna, since we have you up on the large screen here?
Sure. Yeah, it's totally good to drink, but not many people milk sheep or sell it for milk. More often than not, sheep's milk is turned into delicious cheese. And actually, if you look historically at sheep in Canada, when they first arrived in the province that we now call Quebec, they were mostly meant for milk and for cheese. So there's a long tradition of sheep that produce a lot of milk, really delicious milk that are still existing in Quebec and are still used for making sheep's milk cheese in Quebec.
Okay, very neat. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had sheep's milk, but I do love goat cheese, and I love many other types of cheese from sheep. Delicious. All right, let's see what else we have. Sandra, this is from Emerson, one of her students. How long do sheep live, and how old is your oldest one? Harold, do you want to take that one?
Sure, that's a good question. We've only had sheep for 5 years, so our oldest one would only be about 5 or 6 years in our home. But the oldest sheep can easily get to be 8 or 10 years old that I know of, and continue to produce and have babies. Maybe Anna's had older sheep than that.
Yeah, Anna, how about over on your farm?
We have a 13-year-old ewe.
Wow.
So she wasn't born here because we've only been farming sheep for 6 years as well. So, but we bought her, and yeah, she's 12. I know, I've often heard people talk about sheep can live to 14 or 15 if they're in good condition.
Amazing. And how, let's say a sheep did live to 14, how many of those years would they be able to produce lambs and lambs?
You know, I think their bodies are capable of producing lamb pretty much their whole life cycle. Okay. I think more as a farmer, I would probably choose not to breed an older ewe just to give them a break. They've done their work, and now they just get to hang out and eat all the hay.
Let them enjoy their retirement.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna. All right, let's see what else we have. Okay, this is actually from the same Mr. Arachuk. What happens if sheep go unsheared?
Sure. It's actually really unhealthy for sheep to not lose their fiber every year. Part of what happens is it becomes more challenging for them to regulate their body temperature because their wool just keeps growing. It's hard. It will be more likely that they will get bugs and pests that will burrow inside of their fleece because it gets dirtier and it's not being taken off. And it also could end up being fatal for them. If they don't get sheared, they could get so sick or unhealthy that they would no longer be living. So it's essential that we shear them every year.
Yeah, sounds that way. And I'm sure it would get quite heavy too if it grew to such a thick amount.
Yeah, well, and you had a slide at the very beginning of today's presentation with Shrek the sheep who ran away, and I think that was like 4 or 5 years worth of growth. And if you're interested, you can definitely search and see what happened when they did shear him. They got all that wool off, which must have felt just so good for him. But he wasn't very healthy. He was really skinny, and just wasn't in great condition. So
I bet. Poor guy can't see either. It's blocking his eyes all the time. Can't see where he's going.
Well, and it's a good thing he didn't tip over, because he probably wouldn't have been able to stand back up if he would have tipped over with all that wool on his body.
I would agree. That's a lot of wool. Thanks, Anna. All right. Okay, this is another question from Katrina Chapman's class from JB Mitchell School. And they are wondering, how much do you sell the sheep fleece for? Harold, what would a fleece off of a sheep at your farm sell for?
I think that's an awesome question. And I think I will pass that on to Anna because I can't remember.
I think I usually buy wool in Canada for between $3 and $10 a pound. So it really depends on the quantity and the quality. There's some breeds of sheep out there where their wool is so unique that we're going to pay a lot more per pound. And then some of the more prevalent wool is not quite as pricey. So I think Sherry and Harold's wool, off of one sheep, we're going to get between like 7 and 8 pounds of wool off of one sheep. And I think we pay around $4 a pound for that. So I'll let all of you do that math. How much do we pay per fleece?
The reason we were stuck for an answer is because when we shear, all our sheep fleeces all get packed into really, really big bags. The teenagers jump up and down on them. So by the time the bag is full and weighs how many hundreds of pounds, we've kind of lost track of how many fleeces are in that place. So it's hard for us to answer that question.
I bet. And it's interesting. I didn't know this. We actually this actually came up as a question from my son earlier, and he asked if there's machines that could do the shearing, but shearing is only ever done by hand, right?
It is only done by hand, and you need to be incredibly skilled at shearing a sheep. Harold and I tried that once, and then we decided we didn't want to do that anymore. And we definitely bring in a professional that is able to very effectively, quickly remove the fleece from a sheep without any stress on the sheep. And it's just worth every single penny.
And the reason that would be difficult for a machine to do that is because the sheep doesn't just sit down and pay attention and let it be sheared. They wiggle around a little bit, or they might move a little. So every time they move a little, the person doing the shearing has to react and move their shearing equipment a little differently. So I can't imagine why it would be possible for a machine to do that. But who knows what the future will bring. For now, we know the very best shearing people are really, really skilled people that we'll continue to hire.
Definitely. Very cool. Thank you. All right, let's see what else. We have about another 10 minutes or so to take a few more questions. So this is from Abigail Cross. How did you get the bales in your barn? I'm assuming this is a question for you, Bosma's over there.
Yes, we move the bales in with our small tractor. We have a small tractor that we can use that'll carry bales around. And so then when there were no sheep in this room that you're looking in right now, then this fence that's here in front of me that you can't see because that's where we come in through the door and set the tractor use the tractor to set the bales down against the wall, the ones that you're looking at there. And the big ones out in the other barn the same way. We have a tractor that we use that for because the bales are quite heavy. These ones that are in here behind us, I'm thinking you can maybe just see the edge of them.
Yeah,
these ones would weigh around 700 or 800 pounds. Yeah. And then the big ones that you saw in the video a little bit earlier, those ones weigh about 1,000 or 1,200 pounds. So 400 or 500 kilograms. So yes, that's how we use the tractor for that job.
I bet. Couldn't move those otherwise, that's for sure.
We'd show you a picture of the tractor, except that right now our camera is sitting on our tractor.
multi uses for that tractor, right? That's awesome. Thanks, Harold. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Madame Brown. Oh, this is my son's teacher. Hi, Madame. Spencer is wondering, do you have sheep that aren't white? I'll throw that your way first, Harold.
That's a really good question. And yes, we do. We have two breeds of sheep here at Dusty Ridge Ranch. We have the Canadian Arcot, and they are primarily white with some speckling. They can get some dark speckling on their faces. And we also have a breed of sheep called Tunis. And Tunis sheep, they're incredible. They're more redheads. And as they mature, Their wool grows in more of a creamy color, but their noses and legs remain with the red hair. And I think they're really cute.
Very neat. Very cool. And how about you, Anna? What different colors and varieties of sheep do you have?
Well, we actually only have 2 white sheep in our whole entire flock.
Really?
We raise Shetland sheep, and what makes the Shetland breed unique is that they have 11 distinct colors within the breed. So they go everywhere from white to tan to brown to chocolate brown to gray to black, and a bunch of colors in between. So that's actually why we raise that breed, is because we can get these beautiful natural shades within the sheep's flock. So yeah.
Very neat. Now I'm curious, the wool that you have that you sell at Longway Homestead, is it all naturally colored, or do you ever color any of the wool on your own for selling it to crafters in Manitoba and for making beautiful garments?
That's a great question. So we sell quite a bit of naturally colored yarn. So it's colored on the sheep. So the browns, the blacks, the grays. And then we actually dye quite a bit of our yarn. And the interesting thing about our farm and what we do here is that we dye it naturally. So we use only plants, flowers, and bugs, if you can believe it. There is a bug called the cochineal bug. It's a hard-shelled beetle, and it grows on cacti in really hot tropical places around the world. And it gives us the color pink, and it is the only source of natural pink. So we can't grow that here. We do find it. We have to buy it from elsewhere. But we grow lots of flowers. And I'm sure some of you even have these flowers growing in your own gardens. Marigold is an awesome color, a flower for dyeing. Onion skins do a beautiful gold color. And then I even have some yarn here to show you. This is a beautiful skein of green that I used with a plant called Black Knight Scabiosa. And it is my most favorite flower for dyeing yarn with.
Wow, I never knew that. And I never knew that you could dye wool with bugs. That is totally new information.
And
That's
taking
so cool.
it outside of the sheep world a little bit, cochineal bugs are actually a really common natural dye in our food. So if you ever eat a red velvet cake, chances are there's cochineal bugs in it, and even red or pink lipstick will have cochineal bugs used.
Wow, very neat. Thanks, Anna. I'm learning something new today too. I'm sure all the kids are as well. Thank you. So we have a little bit more time to pull in. I'm going to say probably another 3 questions. So we have one coming in here from Lynn McCry, and she is wondering, do you have any sheep ready to be sheared? Bosmas, do you have any right now that are ready to be sheared? Or does that usually happen at a certain time of year for the most part?
Well, typically we look at shearing some sheep in March. The weather has been a little bit... So because most of our sheep, even though they're under cover in our straw pack barn, the temperature is the same as outside. So I've decided to push back our shearing just a little bit to make sure that the temperature is more moderate for them, so they can go back outside without their jackets and feel comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. It hasn't been the nicest winter this year, that's for sure. So they're nice. They look nice and warm right now. Nice to keep them that way.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you as well, Anna? You're
we always shear at the end of April. We don't have a big barn like Harold and Sherry, so our sheep live outside all year long. So we have to wait until it's warm enough to shear them. And actually, for all those classes and individuals out there, we hold a shearing festival. So we invite people to come and watch the shearing, and it's a pretty magical experience. So at the end of April, you can come watch sheep being sheared at our place.
Super cool. Thanks, Anna. All right, let's see. Shelley Elliott's class from Newdale Colony is wondering, how fast can a sheep run? Do you want to take this one first, Anna?
Faster than me is the only answer I know.
That's exactly what
what we were going to say too.
I have no idea, but I am actually going to look that up and see if anyone has ever clocked a sheep running, because they can run very fast, especially when a frustrated shepherd is behind them.
Oh, I can imagine.
The other thing, the thing that I know about that is, yes, they can run faster than us, but I know they cannot outrun our dog Try.
No.
They
And
can
they cannot
try.
outrun
Get
our
away from
llama.
try, but they can't.
Our llama also is faster than the sheep. She can always get around them and get to the front. No matter how quickly the sheep run, the llama is faster.
Awesome. She keeps them in line.
Which is
Does her
why
job
we have
well.
llamas and dogs.
Yes, definitely. All right, let's see what else we have coming in here. We'll take two more. Tara Friesen is wondering, do your rams have horns? If so, do you trim their horns? Harold, do you want to dive into this one?
Yes. None of our sheep have horns. None of our sheep are ever born with horns. There are breeds that are naturally polled. It's called polled, meaning they do not have horns, so they don't need to have them taken off. So they're just born that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that could be variable depending on the breed of sheep. And maybe Anna would like to speak to that.
Yes, Anna, I know I've been following your Instagram feed because you have such cool videos and photos, and I saw that a lot of your rams do have horns. So I'm curious to see what you say.
Yeah, our rams do have horns. Shetland sheep have the males grow horns, and we've never had to trim a horn. The biggest concern for us is as the horns grow out of their head, they curl, and if they curl too close to the jaw of the sheep, they'll have a hard time chewing. And so that would be the only situation in which we would have to trim a horn. And we've been really lucky in our breeding program. So the rams that we choose to make babies, we make sure their horns grow really far away from their face. So they pass on those good horns to their lambs. And we've never had an issue with it.
Interesting. It's two totally different takes from the two of you. That's great. Thank you very much for teaching us about that a little bit. Okay, I think we have time. Let's pull in one more question, and we're going to end here with Wendy Semler's class from Gladstone Elementary. It's a grade 4 class, and they're wondering what kinds of things can be made with sheep wool. I guess, Anna, this one will be for you.
That's a great question. I wore a few things made from wool. So this is a toque that I knit out of one of my sheep's wool. Her name was Lottie. Her name is Lottie. So I made this hat out of her wool. And then this sweater, which is wool not from my flock, but from another flock. So we can make any kind of clothing. We can make mittens and sweaters and hats and even like long underwear. The other things that we like to use wool for are wool pillows or wool duvets or even wool mattresses. So they can be used in our bedding. Wool also can be used as insulation in our homes. It's an excellent insulator. So that's something that wool can be used for that isn't something that we put on our bodies. And we can even use wool in our gardens. It adds nutrients to the soil. It allows us to water less. It acts as a mulch to keep out weeds. And, you know, historically, wool used to be used in fighting fires because wool is naturally fire retardant. So they used to use wool blankets to help put out fires. I could go on, but I feel like wool is fantastic for so many things. But my favorite use for sure is the clothing.
Definitely. I would say out of all the toques that I own, the one that I have that is made out of wool is by far the warmest. Keeps my ears nice and warm in these Winnipeg winters.
Yeah.
So thank you. Well, I wish we could keep taking questions forever, but I do know that teachers and students have things they have to get to within their day too. So I wanted to thank the three of you, Harold, Sherry, and Anna, for joining us today. I know that all the students across the province had an amazing time learning about sheep farming and how much you care for your animals, and are so thankful for the food you produce and the beautiful wool that you make for our clothing and many other products that we use in our everyday lives. I just want to remind all the teachers that there is going to be a recording of today's event that will be available on the teacher page for you to access, as well as all of our previous events as well. Next one up is Follow the Pig Farmer. That's going to be happening in May, and we'll definitely be telling you that date once it's solidified. And I want to encourage all the teachers to share photos with us of you doing these events, taking on the activities in your classrooms. We have a Teach Ag contest where you are automatically entered to win some money to buy new books for your classroom. So please show us what you're doing, and I'm sure the farmers would love to see as well. Thank you again to Penner Farm Services for helping make these farm tours a reality. And of course, none of this could happen without farmers like you guys. So thank you so much for your time and your passion and all of your hard work. Food.
Thank you, students and teachers, for coming to visit us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Stay warm, and we'll see you in May when it's springtime and nice and green outside. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.